and welcome to the Urgently podcast presented by the Space Foundation Advisory Council. Urgently discusses diversity, equity, and inclusion issues within the global aerospace industry. My name is Kushi.
And my name is Tanya, and we are your hosts for today's podcast.
The goal is to bring light to a person's career in aerospace and to answer a specific topic. We will be coming up with tangible outcomes and solutions as key takeaways from this podcast.
This episode features an interview with Dr. Shreya Santra. She is the scholarships team lead at the SGAC, the director of space technology at Space Innova, and an assistant professor at the Space Robotics Lab of Tohoku University, where she's working on multi agent planetary exploration.
We will be focusing on your career as a space robotics expert, creating opportunities for minorities, and her engagement for gender equality and diversity. Hello and welcome, Shreya. It is a pleasure to have you as a guest on our podcast. Can you please begin by introducing yourself?
Hello, Kushi. Hello, Tanya. Thank you for having me here. I'm really honored to be featured in the OGL podcast. I've been involved with SGAC for quite some time now, and so it's really uh, honored to be here. And yes, as Kushi introduced me, I am Dr. Shreya Santra, and I am an assistant professor at Tohoku University in Japan, working in the space robotics field. Before this, I did my bachelor's in electronics and electrical engineering in NIT Jamshedpur in India. And then on, I went into the space sector doing my master's in 2015 in International Space University in France, Strasbourg, and then a master's in space systems and robotics at Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology in Moscow. And yes, I'm from India, from a very small town called Dhanbad, which is the coal capital of Asia. And most of my life in India as a student has been spent studying about science and discovering different scientific fundamentals and doing experiments. So I think, yeah, that's my introduction. And yes, I currently also volunteer for SGAC for as a co-coordinator of the scholarships team, and I am a director and co-founder of the Space Innova, which is a space education and research company in India. My another job is as a researcher and coordinator for Space Sports Sarabhai, which is India's first space policy think tank. So there I help with different research on space and policy making, and also to curate different panels with experts on space policies.
What a wonderful, extensive career path. Since you have worked in roles that not only involve conducting research and teaching, but also working to make sure that space education is more accessible to a wider audience through online courses and such, this leads me to my next question, which is what falls under the category of space education? Why do you think it is important to develop space education?
Space education is a very interdisciplinary field. So, space is vast, literally, and there are several different types of courses, fields that are involved in space. So, it's not just engineering or not just science. There can be several different professions like space law, space business, space art, and this is just the beginning. So, space education is important because it opens up a lot of opportunities for people who are pursuing different fields. So, for me, for example, I always wanted to study space. Like, my nickname is Moon. When I was born, my grandparents named me Moon, and I was born on the day for when it's also Valentina Tereshkova's birthday. So I was always enchanted by space, and I always wanted to get into the space sector, but I didn't know how. And during my bachelor's, I went for electrical electronics engineering and not aerospace engineering, which is the normal path that most space enthusiasts take for. But even during electrical and electronics engineering, I knew that I could use that skill for space, for building satellites or for building robots. So that way, I was really fortunate, and that's why space education is important to help all the space enthusiasts to know that there is space for them in this sector, and irrespective of what field they are pursuing, they can still find their passion and still find profession in this field. So that's why it's important.
I think role models are really important growing up and pursuing your passion for space, because it's like you said, when you follow a non-conventional path to space engineering, you need to look up to people who have done that. And there has been a lot of people coming in from different fields. Even myself, I completed my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and now I'm getting some work experience before I go on to do something more space related.
Indeed, it's very important to explore different fields. I feel that gives you a lot more exposure to the space industry as a whole. Also, I would say like the space industry is growing at a rate like never before, and it's making path-breaking discoveries. How do you feel can space education be made more accessible and engaging for students of all ages and social economical backgrounds?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So, first of all, definitely introducing space education in its basic form in a school. Schools are important so that we know, like when we are young, most of the students, kids, they want to become astronauts, but then by the time they grow up, they just lose that dream because they don't know how to get into that field. So the most important thing is like introducing the kids in a very young age to the vast amount of opportunities that are there in this field. And of course, not just introducing but actually involving them in interactive activities like doing projects or building a rocketry and different projects that they can do, and to keep up their curiosity and to keep up their passion. Of course, another way to make it more accessible is to have online space education courses, which has become pretty popular now. And also, personally, me, I have really benefited from online space courses from, say, edX and Coursera and other different platforms. So it's a great way to reach out to different demography, different geography, because it's not restricted to one region. So there are more people can access it more easily. And definitely access to podcasts like this or interviews or libraries where students can learn about all the different things that entails the space field, or people who are working in the space field. So knowing about those who are working and who have gone through this path is can really make it more accessible. Definitely it helps to build a community and connect and network, so that way they can be more engaged in this field. I think that's really important, and having a role model as well. So for me, for example, I was very, very motivated by Dr. Kalpana Chawla, but that was after the Columbia accident. So after the Columbia accident happened in 2003, I got really very motivated by all the things that she had achieved. But if I had known many more people before that, I think I would have been much more passionate and more motivated. So I think that's very important to bring up role models that people can follow, because you cannot become someone that you cannot see. So that's very important to have a role model.
Kalpana Chawla is also the one who's played a very important role in helping me be inspired by the whole space industry and keep going with the dream that I have. And that's something that I think is also important for all the young generation out there, because India is a country that's really growing very fast, and there are a lot of opportunities that are opening up. I would say STEM education and outreach are crucial for preparing the next generation of innovators and problem solvers. Is your university engaging in helping STEM activities? And do you have any examples that you can provide?
Yeah, definitely. Tohoku University is a pretty big national university in Japan, and they are heavily involved with a lot of STEM activities. They take students on field trip for night sky watching or for rocketry competitions, and there are several clubs of rocketry, satellite, and night sky watching, astronomy related clubs. And also they conduct several programs where university students are taken to schools in around this region or around Japan, where the young kids are taught about space by university students. So that's pretty good example of how Tohoku University is helping with STEM activities. There's a recent example of myself being featured in a Woman in Engineering annual newsletter of the Hoku University, and they took an interview of me highlighting how my journey had been and how I got into this field. And this newsletter annually is circulated around to 50,000 students in Japan, mostly to encourage girls and minorities to get into the engineering and technical related fields. So these are some examples from the Hoku University, but even before this, in Moscow and in France, I have been involved in several voluntary activities with the universities where we like went to orphanages and gave them different workshops and helped them to understand what space is and how they can follow their passion. So this really helps in a lot of capacity building and at a very young age, and definitely helps also developing a lot of talents in these regions.
Firstly, that's a great news and really congratulations for that. And I think that these activities are really important and they really keep the curiosity and dream of these kids alive and intact. Which also brings me to the next question, that is, space education is becoming increasingly important as we continue to explore and push new boundaries. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the latest trends and opportunities in this field and what you believe the future holds for space education.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question given the situation currently where we are seeing the private space sector making space technologies more and more accessible. We recently saw how iSpace sent their lander to moon. Although it didn't land successfully on the surface, but the entire journey of how it started from my lab to becoming a full blown spin off company with three centers around US, Europe, and Japan. This is a big example of how technology is actually becoming accessible to everyone. And this is important that we give space education to the upcoming generation, to the space enthusiasts, because right now, with the growth of the private sector, there's a lot of job opportunities, but again there's also a lack of talent because people are not aware of space technology or space education and all the different space business, space policy that are involved in the sector. So this is important that we give the introduce the young generation to all the developments that are happening in the society and in the sector. And one of the most important thing that we see nowadays is the international collaboration that are happening. So no single space agency can operate on their own, so they have to collaborate with several different private and public entities, and only then they can survive because space is expensive. That's the harsh truth. So going to space is expensive, and you need the support of both private and public sectors and from different countries. So that's important. This is how it is expanding and developing and helping involve a lot of people into this sector.
That's very true. That's one harsh reality that we can't deny. But also the fact that with the private industry that is increasing at a rate like never before, it's also providing a lot of new opportunities, and it's opening up the real space that is a lot more than just the universe we think of, or just the planets and the moon that we think of, but also the satellites that are helping us back here on Earth and improves the way of life that we're living here. As we gain a deeper understanding of the universe we live in, what do you see as the potential benefits of developing space education in our society?
Yeah, so there are several like benefits. Of course, everything starts from having access to education, the right to education, and then getting into the space education. Definitely, it will inspire the future generation to keep dreaming and to dream bigger. There's no limit to what you can achieve if you're really passionate about going towards your dream. Of course, as you mentioned, there are different global challenges that we can address through space. So, like climate change, disaster response, food security, all of these issues can actually be much more efficiently addressed by satellite data. So it's very important to have more and more satellite data and more people who can analyze this data and can use this data and can access this data. So for that we need to develop the workforce who can get access to this data and use this data. Definitely technology transfer and advancement of science is one of the spin-offs of developing space education, right? So the more people we have working or researching in this field, the more advancement in technology and science we will have. And it also promotes a lot of international cooperation, as we can already see through SGAC. SGAC has so many alumni who are working at very top levels, and they are some of the examples where they actually collaborate with each other, all the different countries and all the different companies where we have SGAC alumni. They are collaborating with each other, and that's big benefit of giving space education and building a community, and definitely bringing a lot of economic benefits and growth, because no matter what the negative people say, space exploration does bring a lot of economic benefits at a very low investment. So you can see all the different space agencies and companies, the investment and the fundings that they get and the output that they give. So there's a lot of benefits in terms of technology spin-off, in terms of science advancement. So definitely the government and the commercial space industry is actually giving a lot in terms of economic benefits. So that's my answer to your question.
Space is so vast and expensive, but oftentimes it is so inaccessible to the younger generations. And I think that scholarships play a crucial role in assisting students who aim to pursue higher education or be involved in the space sector in any way. For many students or people of the younger generation, the expenses involved can pose a substantial obstacle. What are some of the benefits of scholarships for students pursuing higher education in the space sector?
Thank you for touching on that topic. I think scholarships are extremely important. Personally, I have been benefiting from several scholarships right from my school time to university in India. And then when I started studying abroad, I have always got some kind of scholarships to support my education and living expenses. All different kind of scholarships like MEXT, DLR. I applied and I have been fortunate to receive those. So I am a big supporter for going for scholarships when you go for higher studies or any kind of research or even for conferences. So I think there are several benefits of scholarships. First of all, of course, financial support to cover the expenses, whether it's tuition fees or travel expenses, and helps to remove a lot of financial burden from the students or from applicant, because the more financial burden you have, less motivated and more stressed you will be. So that's very important that you be free, and with a free mind you can learn something. Scholarships increases or improves the profiles, so you have more increased opportunities, and the people take note of you that you might have got a good scholarship, and you get a lot of recognition and prestige. So that's very important. And if you get a scholarship, you get higher or better opportunities for your next step, whether you want to go for a PhD, especially in academic sense, you get a better opportunity. It also opens up a lot of chances for networking and connecting with people who are involved in this kind of programs or have received the scholarship before earlier. So you become like a community, and that is very inspiring. And also, one of the very benefits of scholarships, what I feel is, those who get the scholarship, they can also help their own local community or pay it forward by some way. You get this attitude of giving back or giving forward to the society. That's my personal thinking, but I've seen several scholarship winners do this.
Yeah, I think my co host Tanya here was also a recipient for a scholarship program last year. Maybe, Tanya, you can share some of your thoughts on how you benefited from getting a scholarship for one of your programs.
Yeah, so I received Dr. Kalpana Chawla's scholarship for SSP, that is the Space Studies program from the International Space University that happens every year. And I think that the scholarship was a valuable input, because without which I think it would have been difficult to be a part of the program. And I think that as a scholarship recipient, you're also representing and have a responsibility, I feel, to, or I feel maybe inspire a younger generation, and that helps them look forward and continue the dreams that they have. It definitely gave me a really nice experience. So scholarships are definitely something that help us achieve and look for more opportunities in a wide spectrum.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us, Tanya.
The year is 2023. Since its launch in the summer of 2022, the James Webb Telescope has revolutionized our understanding of the universe. With its massive 6-meter mirror and advanced technology, it has embarked on a journey to the edge of space, revealing one startling discovery after another. The James Webb Telescope peers deeper into the universe than any other telescope before it. Its infrared sensors are so sensitive that they can detect the faint warmth of a flying bee on the surface of the moon. With this remarkable capability, James Webb eclipses anything previously thought achievable in space exploration, surpassing the Hubble Space Telescope by 100-fold in sensitivity and power. Webb's mission is clear: to provide sharper, deeper, and wider views of our cosmos. Its state-of-the-art technology delivers vastly improved, vibrant, and colored images compared to the Hubble. And it's not just a telescope. It is thought to be a colossal time machine, allowing us to witness images of a universe believed to be 14 billion years old. Webb can safely capture light that has been traveling to us for 13.5 billion years, making it our closest instrument to observe the edge of time. Webb is positioned much farther from Earth than the Hubble, over 1.5 million kilometers away, more than 4 times the distance to the Moon. This location causes a risk on the mission, as the telescope cannot be repaired like Hubble, which required 5 maintenance missions over its 30 years of operation. Perhaps in the future, when human space vessels can reach Mars, they could make a detour to service this magnificent telescope. So what has James Webb discovered? Its observations have already shaken the scientific community with the revelation of ancient objects at the edge of observable space. Even in the first deep field image presented to the public, Webb revealed objects from the farthest reaches of the cosmos, attributed to the oldest galaxies ever seen. This finding challenges the prevailing theories about the timeline of the universe. Now, the oldest galaxy discovered is 13.5 billion years old, whilst the Big Bang, as we understand it, occurred around 13.7 billion years ago. These galaxies appeared just 200 million years after the birth of our universe. This by itself challenges our fundamental understanding of cosmic evolution, with the assumption previously made that after Big Bang there was nothing for a very long time. Scientists are carefully examining the authenticity of these findings. If the measurement method proves accurate, it would require a complete rewrite of our theories about the origin of the universe. So James Webb images have the power to look back in time, capturing light emitted by sources that probably no longer exist today. But can it answer the ultimate question? Does the universe have a beginning? Does it have an end? Does it have boundaries? In practical terms, it can look back in time 13.5 billion years, shortly after the Big Bang. But the question remains, if can it look even further? If Webb can extend its vision beyond 13.5 billion years, it may hold the key to confirming the beginning of the universe. This would be an extraordinary breakthrough, rewriting our understanding of how everything came into existence. While Webb's discoveries have the potential to confirm the origins of the universe, they provide no hint about the true extent of its size. What if everything astronomers have believed about the cosmos is wrong? Will we discover the edge of the universe? The answers lie within the stars, waiting to be unveiled by the wonders of science and human exploration. If Webb continues to deliver results that defy our previous understanding, we will embark on a journey to rewrite the history of the beginning.
Access to education is a really important issue, particularly for individuals limited by financial barriers. Shreya, I would love to hear your perspective on how scholarship programs contribute towards addressing issues of social inequality and enhance access to education for such individuals.
That's a wonderful question. And yes, I'm very happy to answer this. I'm a big proponent of access to education. And in general, if you are really serious about the education that you're pursuing, it opens up a lot of opportunities for you. One can like achieve or pursue the field that they want through by just access to education. Different scholarship programs can actually give that access to first education and then space education to several unrepresented or minority communities, for example, or those who do not have the financial sources to pursue something that they dream of. So giving this opportunity itself is like kind of addressing the social inequality issues. And again, as I mentioned, people who receive the scholarships, they actually inspire their local community quite a lot. People get to know about them, and then younger generation wants to follow them. The applicants, they want to follow these scholarship winners, and that really helps to uplift the community. And the scholarship winners can give back through either financially or even through workshops or just giving talks about their experience, about how the younger generation can do the same. So that way, it helps in addressing the inequality and the access to different types of scholarship programs. And also mentorship and supporting or encouragement to apply to different scholarships helps a lot. So I think that these are some points by which we can really address the social inequality issues and give more access to education.
So, from our discussion, we can definitely conclude that scholarship programs play an important role in promoting the ideals of diversity and inclusion in higher education. Improving access to scholarship programs for underrepresented groups is an important goal, but it can be really challenging to achieve. So, what are some effective strategies for making scholarship programs more accessible to underrepresented groups?
Yeah, I think that's a big issue actually. For several scholarship programs are not really known, or people do not think about all of these sponsors and scholarship programs that can help to pursue higher education or any research based education. So I think it is very important that these scholarship programs and the organizations that are providing these scholarships should make it more accessible and more do a lot of targeted marketing, promotion, and conduct outreach in different schools and institutes where they can have like possible applicants from. And also again, as I mentioned, mentorship and guidance and different kind of workshops on how to apply for these scholarships are very important, so people who have received those scholarships can help the next generation. And definitely these scholarship programs should have more and more diversity criteria. So I have been involved with the scholarships team, and we see a lot of like scholarship applicants are actually the majority. So mostly the applicants are male, but sometimes when the females apply, their profiles are really strong, but the applicants are very less in the female applicants, and this is really very concerning because we want to include more and more diversity in the winners, or in the select more and more winners who actually can represent the diverse nature of SGAC, but even the applications are low. So I think that's very important that we try to show that our eligibility criteria is very diverse, and we can do a lot of promotion and marketing in this regard. And also it's important that we actually promote in different languages. So many of the scholarship programs are actually in English, which becomes a lot of hindrance. I think it's important that we have different scholarships in different languages, and application is more simplified, so it really helps to get more and more applicants and making it more accessible.
Yeah, and I think STAC in particular does a really great job of having scholarships from the different partnered organizations while also like promoting women and other underrepresented minorities to apply for them. I know STAC also has a mentorship program, and from my previous experience with STAC so far, it has been really helpful to have people to look up to at the same time from the mentorship program and have some guidance while applying for scholarships, because like you mentioned, applying for scholarships can be challenging sometimes because scholarship questions kind of tackle a lot of different aspects of your profile. So I wanted to ask if you have faced any kind of struggles while applying for scholarships in your career.
Yes, definitely. So I have applied for several scholarships and got several rejections and few acceptance. So yes, scholarship applications are very challenging and very competitive. Sometimes the applications are very specific, so the evaluators look for very specific things like how much of work you have done in that specific field, and how many publications you have in terms of academic grants and scholarships. And for example, also for SGAC, we really see how much you have contributed as a leader or as into the in the space sector. I think these criteria sometimes, although it helps us in evaluating and getting the right winners, it also becomes restrictive in some way, because not everyone has the access to space projects or people working in space. And so they cannot present themselves with an experience of that related project. So I think that's the problem, but also that's why we have, in the past 2 years, we have really opened up several scholarships that do not look into your space related projects, irrespective of which field you are coming from. As long as you have done something substantial, the your under profile is strong, it gets considered for the scholarship. So we are trying more and more to make the eligibility criteria more flexible, and also to involve people from all over different fields.
Thank you for sharing the kind of tips to apply to different scholarships. So, it can be difficult for one organization to fund a lot of scholarships. And I think that is where collaborations with other organizations come into place. How can individuals, governments, and private organizations work together to support scholarship programs for higher education?
Thank you, Kushi, for the question. And I think that's very important. And I can give you already examples of where the government and private organizations and individuals come together. First of all, SGAC. Most of the scholarships that SGAC provides are from different sponsors, big companies, and even individuals or SGAC alumni who want to help the next generation. So they provide funding for projects and studies and for scholarships. So similarly, the NASA Citizen Science Program, which is supported by NASA and several other research institutes, come together to work on different kind of topics where even individuals from different fields can get involved with, and this really helps in improving the profile. Again, there is this scholarship called Brookline Scholarship, which involves a lot of big companies, big aerospace companies coming together and awarding several female engineers and scientists to uh, work and do different kind of internships, paid internships at these big companies. So these are several examples where all the three stakeholders or entities are coming together and collaborating and creating an ecosystem through their partnership. So this is very important. And on the other side, also a lot of advocacy and policies that can help different organizations and governments to collaborate, provide, and give access to higher education and space education to different levels of the society is very important. And they can do this in forms of like endowments or loan based scholarship or paid forward scholarships. And this is like different examples that I can think of where governments and individuals and organizations can really work together and support, and also make the scholarship winners as their ambassadors, and help them to go to different parts of the globe and give talks or do more of outreach of the scholarship programs.
That's awesome. Thank you for describing so many scholarships in details. Much like the scholarships you mentioned, some scholarships that I'm also aware of are the Z Factor Fellowship and also the Patty Gray Smith Fellowship Program, which is similar to the Brooke Owens Fellowship programs. And we had one of the founders from the PGS Fellowships as one of our guests for the first episodes, where we also talked about scholarships and access to education in detail. We will be including all of the links to the scholarships and fellowships programs in the podcast description.
So, who typically sponsors scholarships for space education?
So, different strategies that can be undertaken in this regard is, first, yes, there has to be a lot of like modifications in the policies, and less of bureaucracy, and that can help the companies to coordinate with the government or collaborate with the government. So this is important. Also, it's important that they really identify what kind of scholarships that they are interested in. So, often it happens like the government and the private organizations, they have, different perspectives. So it's important that they come to a conclusion where they can actually provide scholarship to the misrepresented society or to the minorities with clear goal. So it's important to give the scholarships where they actually think that yes, this scholarship can benefit in the long run. So that's important as a strategy. And definitely, like one of the things that they can also implement, the government and the private organizations, is not being restrictive to countries and not being restrictive to regions, because this often becomes a hindrance, especially in developing regions like Africa or Asia, because this narrows down the opportunities that they can get. So these are some of the strategies that I can think of where they can work together, the government and the organizations, to make scholarships more accessible.
Yeah, I think the collaborative effort is important. That makes it a little more inclusive. So, like with the emergence of educational platforms, it is transforming the way we think about the space industry. Looking to the future, how do you see the impact of Space Innova, a platform that's providing courses distinct from conventional university courses, in shaping and advancing space technology education for students around the world?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Definitely, I think Space Innova has actually created a lot of impact in its 2.5 years of existence. So the courses that we give in Space Innova are different from conventional education in universities. So we do not focus on, curriculum of the universities. We try to give or introduce them to different topics that the aerospace sector looks for. So we introduce them to different projects in astrobiology or space robotics or AI applications for space. So these different kind of courses that are not taught in universities generally, even in the aerospace engineering or astrophysics departments, they don't teach these in their curriculum. So we want to introduce the students to different diverse kind of topics where they can do different kind of projects, and we also do a lot of mentorship and guidance so that they can submit their papers or their project in different competitions or conferences, and this really helps them to understand what's going on in the real space world. So last year at IAC 2022 in Paris, we had 7 papers that our students presented, and it was the first time that they actually presented their papers, and they flew from India, and they got a lot of opportunity to do a lot of networking and met many inspirational people. And I think this is very important because I could see the students being very impressed with everything that they experienced there. And following that, again, this year we have several abstracts selected. So I hope to help the students who are interested in these kind of diverse topics and guiding them and doing mentoring them to actually explore all the different fields and opportunities that are out there. So I think this is very important and definitely creating a lot of impact.
Yeah, that's definitely the one thing that's creating an impact. Thank you, Shreya, for your time and for sharing your amazing experience and thoughts on the subject. As a wrapping up question, can you share with us a funny story from your work or studies?
Yeah, sure. But before that, I just want to outline some of the sponsors and scholarships that are available in this Asia Pacific region. And there are some organizations that provide you scholarships for higher education, including the Japanese Aerospace Agency, JAXA, that provides several programs and funded scholarships for all kinds of studies, but also for aerospace engineering, especially for capacity building. We have several programs where Asian countries can apply and help develop satellites or robots for their own country's space mission. So I think this is very important that you check out all the different scholarships. Again, ISRO does the same. ISRO helps a lot of SARC countries to pursue different kind of space related fields, and all of these programs are fully funded. Again, the Asia Pacific Region Space Agency Forum, APRSAF, and Asia Pacific Space Cooperation Organization, APSCO. These organizations are heavily involved again with providing funding to young space enthusiasts to attend conferences or to present their work in different platforms. Australian Space Agency is recently becoming very advanced again to promote a lot of diversity and inclusiveness in the space sector. So, for everyone listening to this podcast, please do check out these organizations, and definitely SGAC is there. So, yes, please check out all these organizations for any of the higher education or even for different events.
Would you like to share a memorable story from one of your involvements through different events at SGAC or different conferences?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Kushi. So, all the different events that I have attended of SGAC has been really remarkable and uh, has impacted me greatly. So, when I joined SGAC in 2015, immediately I got the scholarship within like 4 or 5 months of my involvement. So, that was really, it was surprising. But at the same time, when I went to the first event, SGAC event in my life, it was amazing. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed. I met so many astronauts. I think that was the most uh, enriching thing for me, because I always want to become an astronaut. So meeting so many astronauts in real really was amazing for me. And then again, I met so many people whom I had known just by, research papers or books. Just meeting them in person was truly inspiring and motivating. So I think the first SGAC event for me had been, like a turning point. And ever since that, I have attended several SGAC events. I have, contributed in several ways to these SGAC events, and it's been amazing for me. I think it's very important that everyone, uh, all the space enthusiasts, actually attend these kind of conferences and get to know uh, all the people out there who are working in the space sector and all the different contributions that they are doing. I think it's very, very inspiring.
Thank you so much for sharing about your detailed experience at SGAC and other events. My involvement with SGAC has mostly been online so far due to the post pandemic. But I do definitely look forward to getting involved with more events in person this year. For our listeners, we have a lot of SGAC events coming up in the latter half of this year, such as the Space Radiation Congress, which is held together with the IAC in Baku this year. Thank you so much, Shreya. You can interact directly with us on the Diversity and Gender Equality Project through social media and leave feedback or advice from your side. Also, let us know who would you like us to interview next. Thank you all for listening. We are your hosts, Kashi and Tanya, signing off.